Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to a brief presentation on playing the larger flutes, hopefully without pain, over the course.
Okay, so we are the New York Jazz Flute. I'd like to introduce the member, Doug and Taylor on the flute and piccolo, vocal, piano, contact, everything. And Gene Coleman on bass flute, and usually he plays bass flute and flute. And Chip Charlton, he plays bass flute, and usually he plays contrabass flute. And my name is Haruna Fukaza. I'm playing the flute and alto flute.
So, there are disadvantages to playing the larger flutes. The bulkier it is, the more difficult it is in the transport. It can be heavier to hold, and there's a long stretch, or some, even for the little ones, and that's why they will give you the curved head joint. And there are times when you need more breath control, and it takes more work. It takes, in order to produce a sound, produce a really good sound on the larger flutes.
I find that there's a sweet spot that needs to be found with bass flute. Sometimes that sweet spot moves about, which requires shifting and making adjustments. And you can get better results by not overblowing. I find that overblowing, it sort of blows your sound. Even though you require more air, you need to fill the bass flute, alto flute with the air so that it's sort of like the air remains in the flute. And sort of like a nice quick attack, as if I always like to use like examples, as if you were blowing off a cookie crumb off your lip. So just quick and nice. And of course, like playing the bigger flutes, you need a wider performance area. Sometimes it's best to plan ahead and see where you are in terms of like being on the right, extreme right, or get a plan of the venue and see how you can do that.
Some possible solutions in terms of bulk and transportation is investigate, obviously, custom padded and constructed carrying cases. I find that regular physical exercise helps in not only transporting but holding the bigger instruments, especially since I play the contrabass, and now just last week I got the sub-contrabass, which it's about a 40-pound thing when it's in this wooden case. Stretching exercises. Whenever discomfort starts to set in, it's amazing how great stretching exercises can be. And at the Performance Healthcare booth, there is a physical therapist who has a whole book on stretching exercises for us flutists. And taking breaks during practice is important. Even if it's just a 1 or 2 minute break when you start to get discomfort. Switching flutes, I found that to be great. You know, alto flute is way out here, unless you have a curved head joint. Then I go to piccolo. It's a whole different set of muscles, etc.
Of course, there's a longer stretch for these your arms for the bigger flutes. I feel that the alto flute presents more of a problem regarding arm stretch, especially when using a straight head joint. Of course, a curved head joint would help a lot with that. Bass flute, possibly for many, because it has a curved head joint, it might not present as much a problem as the alto flute, although it's probably heavier to hold.
Dual head joints, curved straight, even inblown. I, for years, was a specialist in inblown flute. Was the first to record with it. It's a westerly inblown flute. And I think I have 4 CDs out using the instrument held in the position of a soprano sax. And there are other designs you'll find out further along.
So as you see in this slide, the young lady there is quite a different kind of head joint there. And she had a problem with being able to bring her arms up to play the flute. And so someone from the Netherlands designed this, which would enable her to have the flute at this level, so she was still able to blow her flute. So just as Chip talked about the one with the mouthpiece on the top, playing it almost like a clarinet or an oboe. There are also others. In fact, I saw some in the exhibit hall where there are different head joints that are shaped differently, which can help us so that we don't have to stop playing the flute. We just need to find the adjustment, and we have to be thankful that these flute makers were wise enough, savvy enough to make those adjustments for us.
The young lady in the slide had been in an accident, I think it was an auto accident, and I think she had trouble, shoulder injuries. So the flute that was fashioned, or head joint for her, I think it's called a swan head joint, was made in the Netherlands by a company called Flute Labs. And here at the convention, the flute specialist booth has that for you to try, and some other ergonomic designs for you to try as well. I tried some yesterday, so it was great. The young lady here, she has a deformed right hand, and that same company in the Netherlands specializes in modifying flutes for people who are having physical problems. They restructured the right hand keys so that she could play in spite of her deformed hand. And they do other modifications and inventions, and I would imagine they would custom make things for alto flute. I don't know if they would go to bass flute though, but alto flute, especially a straight alto flute, would be fairly easy to modify.
So for the people who cannot reach right hand pinky key, some company has customized like extend key like that.
Mm-hmm.
A few of the things that we are very concerned with in playing our flute is breath control, the volume, and the sound. Chip already mentioned the fact that there are exercises that we can do which will enable us which will help us in playing the flute. And a program that pays attention to a cardiopulmonary factor is also something that can help us. And in producing our sound, I mean, sometimes, especially I would think, like even with the contrabass flute, and the subcontra, double subcontra, and whatever other contras there are out there, it's more difficult to produce sound. And speaking of producing a sound, the flute that Chip talked about, the mouthpiece on the top like that, I could never get to play that, so I could never produce a sound. So there are different things that we need to do to help us. And in terms of the volume, using the microphone or amplification, of course, depending upon the room that you're playing in, that's one thing that can help us in terms of the volume. And it's good for us to do exercises, facial and flute exercises, to help us with our flexibility and also with our strengthening and to improve our armature.
Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., I'll be at the Performance Healthcare booth back in the back of the exhibit hall booth. I think it's 616. And if you want additional information about facial exercises, and if we don't get to your question at the end, come join us. Some of the other New York Jazz Flute members might be there as well. So moving right along.
flute technician. And also, there's a thing about alto flute, and most likely for bass flute, contrabass flute, and on. There's a decreased amount of sound, decreased range. These are challenges to be expected and need to be addressed. But of course, that's the unique quality of the lower flutes. I don't think you would expect to sound like a C flute or a piccolo.
You could consider also, as far as decreased range and lessened, if you want to go lower, you can have a custom-made B or B-flat foot joint. In terms of higher, many of the same altissimo fingerings that you have on C flute, if you work at it, can be attained on alto and bass flute. Some advantages of playing the larger flutes, we took a survey among ourselves, and although there are voluminous disadvantages, we find that among ourselves, the few advantages outweighed the many disadvantages. There are expanded ensemble opportunities, and when you do a recording, if you include something other than the same sound that people are used to hearing, which is the concert flute, when you throw in that alto, that mellowness, and the bass flute, it really enhances. And as you can see, this little girl with her curved head joint flute there, it has a different visual impact, and it intrigues the audiences and the listeners. And as I mentioned, having different arrays and sizes of flutes really supports having the ability to continue to a practice session when discomfort sets in. Stop what you're doing, change your position by changing your flute, take a break, slight break, and you can continue to work on what you were working on with your bass flute or your alto flute or your piccolo or your swan neck head joint, and continue to work rather than playing through the pain. It's better to not play through the pain, but do some stretches, some breaks, some switching of instruments, etc.
Now, we'd like to play one song with your singing.
So what you see up there is a song which was arranged by Haruna, and the lyrics go to the tune I Got Rhythm. And I played it. I'm sure just saying the title of it, I'm sure many of you know the tune already, and for those of you who needed a recollection of it, a reminder of how it goes, I play that for you. And we would like you to sing along, but if you notice, the lyrics are a bit different. It's "We Got Big Flutes," and it's Chip Shelton who came up with these wonderful lyrics. And so it's going to go like this. We're going to play a 10-bar introduction. You can make a notation in your brain now. 10-bar introduction, and then we're going to go into the song itself.